right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the new RunNGun podcast. This is the first episode of Brews and Reviews, where we, open up a nice cold brew as I break my bottle opener, and we talk about photos and review some photos. This is the first episode. I have Lou from Sweet Lou Photography. You can check out his YouTube channel, obviously on the YouTube and all the other social media. But I have Lou with us today, and Lou, if you want to do a quick little intro, and then we'll kind of get rolling.
Oh, hi. I'm Lou. I make bad videos on YouTube. That's it.
All right, so you heard it first here. That's Lou, and he makes bad videos on YouTube. So welcome to the podcast, Lou. Great to have you as the first guest. I'm still breaking shit over here.
Dude, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, so we're not going to do, what would be, I guess it's not typical because this is the first episode, and we really don't know what typical is for this podcast. In the future, I'd like to, crack a brew and talk about some photos, review some photos, do critiques and stuff like that. But I think it would be a pretty cool episode to talk about kind of what's going on in the world today with, COVID-19 and quarantine, being stuck inside. And you're in a pretty darn big city in New York City. So what is it like for you to be a photographer and, a working dude, and, you are quarantined inside, stuck inside?
Sure. It's weird. Let me, to be a little more specific, because I feel like people who aren't necessarily from New York or East Coast, like, they kind of just hear New York City and think Manhattan, and that's it. Right. So I'm from the Bronx, which is one of the 5 boroughs. For those of you who are over here, like, duh. But the Bronx is like north of Manhattan, so it's kind of weird. It's almost like, parts of the Bronx are very similar to Manhattan, and then as the more north you go, the more kind of like suburban it becomes, and it's like a midway point between like real city life and upstate, suburban life. So it's kind of like this weird hybrid. So that's where I live.
So fake New York.
Yeah. So I am not in one of the worst areas. Like Queens is worse and Brooklyn is worse, and obviously Manhattan is worse because they're very densely populated, and for whatever reason there's a lot, probably because of the airports, there's more international travel going on over there. I'm definitely not an expert, so don't quote me on that. But fortunately, like, my area is not too bad, but at the same time, the Bronx, if I'm getting this statistic right, I think it's the 3rd most densely populated city in America.
Jeez, okay.
I might be wrong. I don't know. So there's a shitload of people, and they all decide to go to the grocery store at the exact same time. So that's terrible. And it's weird. It's like you still see people out. Like when I went for a walk like a week ago, and the weather was kind of nice, and the park was just packed. It was like nothing was going on. But people are wearing masks, people are social distancing. Like, I feel like the majority of people over here are being responsible and not assholes about it. But yeah, the grocery stores suck, and there are definitely some blocks that look like 28 days later where the stores are all boarded up and there's like garbage and disposed gloves and face masks all over the floor. So it's weird, man. It's weird and it's sad.
That is interesting. It's definitely a little bit of a different experience out here in Colorado. But same thing like you were saying, everybody seems to go to the grocery store at the same time instead of, Saturday morning or Sunday morning. Now it's, Tuesday or Wednesday morning, but yeah, it's like everyone can, has ESPN or ESPN.
ESPN.
Yeah, this first sip of beer really got to me.
I'm so drunk.
Oh my God. So I'm actually having a vanilla porter from Breckenridge Brewery, and it's pretty damn good. It's a local Denver brewing company, and cool. I've been hooked on this stuff. So Breck Brewery. pretty good place, pretty good stuff. But this vanilla porter reminds me a lot of Guinness, which I know we talked a little bit before the beginning of the podcast. That's one of your favorite beers and one of mine as well. I got hooked on it when I was in England, so love that good stuff.
Yeah, I don't know, when I was younger, I used to think it was revolting, but now at my advanced age, I realize it's great. So I'm doing a Boilermaker. So it's like that and a little whiskey on the side. Very nice.
That sounds really good right now.
I'm a degenerate, so.
All right. So what I really wanted to ask you is, I was told you are a photographer or you take photos or something like that. And that's kind of why I
told
invited
you that?
you. Some sneaky bastard. I think he was old Greg.
Dude.
So I was told you take photos and you like to take film photos. So what are you doing? Or let's see, how is quarantine affecting you? Do you have a lot more time to take photos? Can you kind of walk me through like a day-to-day of what you're doing?
So I am super fortunate to be uploading to YouTube and have a small group of people give a shit that I do that, you know? So for me, I've started focusing my attention on community challenges where like we all kind of try and shoot stuff every week. So that's been really cool.
Quick interjection. What's it like to have people watch your YouTube channel? I haven't had that yet.
Well, so here's the thing, right? Because I'm certainly not a big channel. You know, I'm like, at the time of recording this, I think like 6,000 subscribers or something like that.
Awesome.
Like a little over. And for the most part, it is overwhelmingly positive, and I get these comments that are like hugs that just make me feel like, hey, this is awesome. But every now and then you get those comments where it's like, hey, you suck, fuckface, kill yourself. And those make it a little challenging. But overall, I'm super fortunate to have the audience I do. And it's dope. I look forward to pressing that publish button because I know I got people that like get it, you know, that get the humor and get the memes. So that's always cool. Because I feel like it's weird. Like there are definitely people in the film photography community and just photography in general who are very like, can't necessarily take a joke. You know, like they're those like fine art. This is the meaning. You know, it's like, dude, yeah, cool. But like also have fun with it. You know, there's nothing wrong with either, right? There's nothing wrong with that fine art, and there's nothing wrong with, you know, memes. So what was the question?
So before I rudely interrupted you, you were telling me a little bit about kind of what it's like to be a photographer in New York, day to day, you know, living the quarantine life. Hashtag quarantine life. I
think I was the one who derailed that, but so
not throwing any blame
for people who are more in like the wedding photography or, you know, corporate photography side of things. Like I really feel for those people because they're the ones who are getting affected really rough by this stuff. Like I have a bunch of random stuff that I do, so I'm kind of business as usual working from home. But for those people who really rely on events, like I don't know if you follow Mick Millman on YouTube.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, so for those who are listening who may not know, he's an event photographer and he shoots a lot of prominent stuff in LA. Like he shoots celebrities and YouTubers and stuff. He's like a full-time working photographer. So you can imagine what this is doing to his business. Like he put out a really heavy video on the topic, and people like that are really in difficult situations where they have to kind of evaluate, you know, how do I schedule something when we don't even know when the cities are going to be open again? You know, like New York, they have the Pause Act, which is going on until May 15th, I think now. And it can just get extended again. You know, so like if my primary income was just weddings, like I'd really be freaking out right now. Fortunately, that's not the case, but you know, like I have other stuff that I do, but it's interesting because people kind of have this notion that like you're working from home and you have more time than ever to work on whatever creative thing you're doing. But to me, when you work from home, you kind of just never turn off. You're like always working. And I think right now I'm kind of having a difficult work-life balance where I'm not really turning off at all, and I'm not spending enough time away from work, because if I'm not working, then I'm editing for the channel, and
Right.
I think I'm kind of having this not so great balance of everything. I haven't been shooting as much as I normally do. Like before this all happened, I was trying to be shooting film in the city at least one day a week. And that's definitely not the case. So just slowing down a little bit, but we're still doing things,
Right. Yeah, I totally understand that whole the work-life balance, because you can for me, my when I go into work, it's 7:30 in the morning to 4:30 in the evening, and once I'm home, I'm home. I like shutting my phone off. I don't like answering emails anymore. When it comes to like the military side of the house, of my job, I like to drive off a base, and I am done with work for the day. I try and treat it like a 9 to 5 as much as I can, when I'm allowed to, when I'm not deployed or doing anything crazy like that. But I completely understand it's hard to get into, for me, to get into a rhythm, because Colorado does have a stay-at-home order, which I think started about 2 weeks ago, and I've been into work as much as I've been at home. So I'm probably every other day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday in work, Tuesday, Thursday, weekend at home, just depending on, what I need to do. If my boss needs to make a quick video to throw on Facebook, if somebody needs some photos, anything like that. So it's hard for me to get into a routine of, I wake up at 7 in the morning, I do a little workout in my room, maybe I go for a run, do a Zoom meeting or something like that, and, block out my day in chunks where I can get stuff done, and a mix of, professional development, like, watching a class on Lynda or YouTube, and then a little bit of work, and kind of finding that balance. But it's been hard, on the days I'm home, it's been hard to find the balance of, when does the work day stop? Because if I'm working from home, I'm kind of always at work. And then the days I am at work, it's weird hours. It might be, 8 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon, or it might be 6 in the morning until, 8 at night. It's been weird, definitely weird. And I would prefer either being at work all the time or being at home all the time.
Right.
But I know both have their, pros and cons being at home all the time. At least I get to break up the monotony a little bit with, a 30-minute drive to work every day, or every other day, depending on when I go in. And even, the days I go in, it's not really a set Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's kind of, I get a call at, 8 o'clock the night before, and I'll show up at 7:30 the next day for however long I need to work. Who knows? But I've been living off a steady supply of Red Bull or Bang or Monster energy drinks, and that's kind of been getting me through, to be honest. It's just been interesting. That's about all I can say. I've been shooting more, to be honest.
That's awesome, dude.
The last couple months, so since the stand-up of Space Force, back at the end of December, my workload has actually gone down a little bit when it comes to photography. Now I've had to pick up the slack when it comes to other things, like helping run the Space Force Facebook page, making video, virtual, addresses from the general to the troops, stuff like that. But for me, it really felt like I've been kind of not slacking, but I haven't been getting as many photo assignments, like launches, things like that, traveling. And then now with the COVID, it's even less, work-related photo stuff, because we're on a whole Department of Defense, like lockdown, no travel order. It's a whole military travel ban. So I'm not allowed to hop on a plane, whether it's, military or whatever it is, civilian, domestic flights, international flights, anything like that. Can't go anywhere. But I found the days that I'm at home, I'm picking up my camera a lot more. I'm picking up, my little Nikon L35, my Nikon Z6 all the time. I just have it sitting here next to me right now with a 60 millimeter macro. I just burned through a whole roll today of Rite Aid Color Print 35 400.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it's I actually got it with my Canon AE1 when I picked it up this past summer when I was in New York. When I first moved there, I drove down to Cornell, and this guy, I think, used my $50 to fund his crack habit, but that's neither here nor there. So, but I got a Canon AE1 for $50. Came with like 3 rolls of film, which today that's pretty much $50. And 3 lenses.
What kind of film?
No, it was just I got 2 rolls of Kodak Gold, 2 or 3 rolls, this roll of Rite Aid, and a couple rolls of Fuji. But you know what? That's right there.
Is that
at least
like
$20.
the prices? Oh, I was gonna say like $50 is like what is going on in Colorado?
No, definitely exaggerating a little bit. It's a little expensive here. Like 3 rolls of Fuji 400s, like $20.
Dude, yeah, it's disgusting. Like in the Walgreens over here, if you go for like Kodak Gold or Kodak Ultramax, they're like $22-$23. Like you go to B&H, that shit's like $6.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Because I remember when I kind of tried getting back into film in like 2016, 2017, I bought 3 rolls of Fuji 400 Superia.
Yeah.
For I think 3 rolls was close to $10 or $12. It was stupid cheap. And now it's at least $20.
It really all depends on where you're going to. Like a lot of if you're in Manhattan, a lot of the little photo labs, like they'll still sell film for like reasonable prices, and B&H is still reasonable. But yeah, like if you're going to like a Walgreens or CVS or whatever equivalent wherever you live, it's crazy how expensive those can be. And
it's
like
ridiculous.
I mean, they're consumer film. Like you're not going to get bad colors out of it, but it's not even like a portrait or something like that where it would be considered that professional grade. Right,
and I'm paying portrait prices for it. It's whatever. I mean, I don't have much room to talk. I'm not a super savvy film photographer or anything like that. I enjoy the medium. I used to shoot it a long time ago, and my parents would, I'd shoot the roll of film. My parents would take it to, Walgreens, Rite Aid, CVS. They'd go get it developed, make a bunch of those little packets of, 5x7 prints where they'd give you like 2 or 3 of each photo for some god awful reason.
Dude, I miss that.
Those were the days. I actually started with film photography when I was, I think, 4, 5, 6, to be honest. I had no idea what I was doing. My parents started me off with those little disposable, like Fuji and Kodak disposable cameras. And I would take those to like auto shows and stuff like that and shoot, old classic cars with my dad. And I just remember that growing up. I'd shoot a couple photos. 90% of them were out of focus, even with a disposable. And then I'd hand the camera to my dad, go jump in the Batmobile or whatever, and he'd get a couple photos of me. So I still have photos, or at least the 5x7 prints back from, early 90s, 94, 95, 96, for when I started film. So I definitely claim that as my nostalgic heritage in the film world. But it's taken me a long time to get back into it, and I miss it. It's nostalgic going back. It feels like I'm 6 years old again in the 90s, and it's an awesome feeling. And if anybody listening to this hasn't shot film yet, you're missing out. Yeah,
and I will say it's definitely not for everyone. There are parts of the film photography experience that's really difficult. Like especially, I try to think about it from the perspective of like the generation below mine. Like I'm 30 now, so I'm old. But like the 18-year-olds now who have kind of come up without any kind of experience with film. Like they might have done it in high school or whatever, because a lot of high schools have art programs with film. That's how I really got into it, honestly.
Yep.
But like for me, like you said, like I look back on it with that nostalgia. Like it makes me think of going to Photo Quick on Crosby Avenue and getting my photos back, you know. But for people who solely had digital cameras, you know, like I don't know that they're gonna go through the same experience and be like, I can't see this photo right now. I can't see what this ISO change is doing. I have to use one ISO for the whole roll. I only have 36 shots. Like things like that might be really frustrating to some people.
Absolutely. Like honestly, you mentioning it right now is kind of the first time you're putting me in that mindset of, you know, growing up. I mean, we kind of grew up with the, at least the internet or computers always being there. Even if it was just one of those giant chunky, you know, tube screen Macs and playing Oregon Trail, and dying of dysentery 90 times, just seeing how far past the mountains you could get.
I was literally just talking about the Oregon Trail like 10 minutes before I came into this Discord with one of my friends. It's so weird.
Yeah. So far in my journey, I've made it to Colorado, and I'm going to get mauled by an ox or something, or a bison pretty soon.
All right. Well, I mean, that's kind of far though.
It's not bad. At least I get to type in some cuss words on my gravestone. Like getting the high score in Pac-Man. But yeah, I completely kind of getting back. It's weird to think about a generation. I'm sure, you know, the generation before us thought about like, hey, these kids have had, you know, computers in their hands in one form or another since they were in preschool. And it's weird to think about, you know, a generation that has only shot digital. And it really brings me back to the episode you did not too long ago about getting those Urban Outfitters little cameras.
Oh, God, that camera.
Like, I can appreciate that. And someone our age, like I'm 29, I can appreciate that. But, you know, like you said, a 16, 18-year-old going into Urban Outfitters, like, what the hell is this? Right. What do I do with this?
Well,
like,
this
why
is kind of what's weird, though, is like Urban Outfitters, like, I don't know, you know, you might not go. I don't really shop it.
I don't very often, no.
The only reason I did that video was actually because of our friend Jacob. He texted me one day and he was like, yo, I got this idea for a video, and like there was two cameras, so he bought one, I bought one, and we shot it together. And his was like $10 more than mine, so mine was like $20,
right.
His was 30. And ironically, his like broke halfway through the roll, so the cheaper one is actually the better one, believe it or not. But when we went into that Urban Outfitters, you would not believe the amount of film photography stuff they had there. Like,
wow.
Kodak Gold, Kodak Ultramax, like shelves of disposable cameras, all the instant film, mad Polaroid, mad Fujifilm. Like, there was literally a whole section of the store dedicated to film photography stuff. So I don't know, like it might, because you know David Dobrik, right?
Yes, I do.
The YouTube guy.
Yeah, I don't watch him religiously, but I've seen
you know
video.
Who he is. Right. Like, sorry, I just hit my desk really bad there. This dude has I think it's on Instagram. Like, it's called Dobrik's Disposables. The only reason I know this is because I have like some friends who are younger and they can be like, hey, boomer, listen, this is. But at any rate, like his whole Instagram is dedicated to his disposable film photography.
Okay.
And I really think like his audience is that age. It's that 16 to 19 demographic, let's say. I don't know what exactly it is. So it's almost interesting to see that like this dude who's an influencer is kind of leading that trend and people get interested in it, right? You see all these apps popping up on the phone now, like Fimo and Visco and all these other apps on the phone that purposely take your beautiful, crispy iPhone 11 photos and turn them into film photography, right? Quote unquote.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see like how those trends work. Like I feel like, you know, it might not be unheard of for a 16, 17, 18-year-old right now to be like, I want to shoot disposable, you know, because even like Kylie Jenner, like when she went on whatever talk show that was and showed her Contax T2 and the price of the Contax T2 went up by like $400.
Jeez.
You know, there is exposure to it. It's just, I feel like it's not the same like nostalgia that we have towards it.
Right. It is an interesting, just kind of thinking about, you have these apps, like even Instagram, probably one of the most popular apps in existence. I'm sure everybody has some sort of Insta or Finsta or whatever, but everyone has this, and it's extremely popular with that younger generation. I think less so kind of with our, the beginning of the millennial generation. But these kids that, want to throw film looking, I use this in quotes, filters on, like you said, their crisp iPhone 11 photos. Like, do I throw, Lark or Juno or Slumber or Ludwig or Perpetua on my photo? These kids don't know, what grain is. They don't know what a vignette is, but they're, it's such a sought after look, which is so interesting. They're going after, these kids can speak, film speak, but have never picked up a film camera, were born after, kind of the digital revolution in photography. It's just kind of mind blowing if you actually pick apart the psychology behind it.
Right. There's something iconic about it. Like I think it goes back to the movies we see and the TV we watch. And, you can tell like when something is shot on film, there's something innately special about it. Like Breaking Bad always stands out, and it just has that grain, it has that grittiness to it. And there's just something about that I think people are always going to be drawn to. It's hard to explain, it's hard to put into words what specifically it is, but there's something about it that just calls people, even if they don't even know what it is. There's just something about it that's like, oh, that looks special.
Right. And I remember in, let's see, like 2005 through 2010, really getting into like video and stuff like that. And it was always, and this is still the same today, how do I get the film look? Or like, how do I make this look cinematic? And what they mean and what people are going after is, how do I get shallow depth of field? How do I get grain? How do I get this wide dynamic range? How do I get, all of these filmic features of, the physical properties of film that digital just, God bless it, can't do. And it's always, no matter how high the resolution, no matter how wide the dynamic range, whatever, how sharp your image is, film, it looks good. It has character.
Right.
And that's, I think, in my opinion, that's kind of what sums it up. It's got the feels. It's got the tones.
Tones. I can't believe that's like, I can't believe that kind of caught on. It was just like a throwaway joke in one video, and now it feels like I have to say it otherwise. But I'm happy it's funny.
It's kind of that paradox. It's the it's the Banksy kind of mentality of, look at Banksy now. He's selling his art to these, multimillionaires that are fighting over it. And then, I don't know if you saw his most recent piece that as soon as the auction ended, the piece went right through the shredder. Exactly.
Oh, it's so good.
It started out as a joke, and the people that weren't in on the joke didn't understand it. And so, it's these multimillionaires and elite 1%, whatever you want to call them without getting political. It's these people that can afford the work that he's selling because it's so rare. But the joke's on them because his art is about them and, the role they play in society. So it's just...
So what you're saying is I'm like Banksy.
Yeah, maybe. So I'm not sure kind of what level. So I have my interpretation of tones, and you may have a completely different interpretation of tones, because I did, let's see. So I did a video not too long. It's been a while now. I think this past summer about, I think it was the 10 most, in my opinion, the 10 photography terms or slang terms that I hate the most. And tones was by far one of them. Like when, especially on Twitter, but that was the joke. And
tones.
So maybe I've just been completely interpreting the way you've been using tones wrong. But I absolutely hate it when you go on to like Twitter, Instagram, and someone comments, "Nice tones, bro," I just want to, I want to rip my hair out. And
oh man, now I know what to comment on your Instagram post.
I just want to like take somebody's face and I want to rub it on their screen and be like, nope. And like hit them with a newspaper. Yeah. But it's like, what does that mean? Because I am a very literal person. So I am like, I take what you say or what anyone says, pretty darn literal. So when you tell me nice tones, are you saying you like my highlights, my shadows, and the subjective contrast between them? Like what does, if I'm trying to interpret that literal, and I went to art school, so I take things extremely literal. Tones are your highlights, your shadows, your,
right.
Kind of like your tone curve. Like, are you like complimenting me?
When people are saying nice tones, I feel like they're usually talking more about the colors. Like,
right.
That might not be the technical definition, but when I'm saying it in my videos, like I'm saying it in jest, you know what I mean? That's why I use Comic Sans and put a heavy reverb on my voice when I say it. And it's like tones.
That's the way, and that's why I get a kick out of it, because of the story I just told.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I've ever unironically been like, yo, nice tones, bro. Like, maybe I did. I don't know. But I can't. I don't really. Here's the thing. I don't comment on Instagram very often. Like, I'll like stuff, but it's got to be really compelling for me to actually write something. And if I do, a lot of the time it's a shit post. Like,
yeah, same.
Totally irrelevant right now. But, like, James from Authentic Aesthetic. He's another film photography YouTuber. Love him. I don't know why this started, how this started, but he and I just started shitposting on each other's videos. Like every single video for like 2 months, we only left the weirdest, most irrelevant comments on each other's videos. Like they're all really stupid. And like that's how, I don't know, I feel like I treat like a lot of Instagram like that. Like if I am commenting, it's the dumbest shit. But I don't know. I feel like I guess it's a compliment though. Like if someone's saying nice tones, like it might not be an expression you want to hear, but I think it's still coming from a good place.
Right. Like I kind of interpret it as like, I like your color grading. I like the way you develop your photo, whatever. That's kind of how I read it. But in the back of my head, I just kind of have, my art school teacher, just kind of like the same way people use the term, pop. I want to make my colors pop. No, what you want to do is you want to make, make your colors contrast. You want to make, pull your highlights and your shadows apart, pull, your luminance contrast or your color contrast. Like you can't make a photo pop, short of throwing a bomb in it.
Right.
But it's just, that was when I went to art school, that was one of my teacher's pet peeves. So that became one of my pet peeves. So it's like, all right, you said you want to make your photo pop. I want to make your head pop. But
you know what word really gets me is cinematic.
Oh God, don't get me started. I'll talk for
Cinematic's
days.
One of those words. It just, I mean, here's the thing. I don't want to just be mean to the word cinematic. Any word that kind of gets overused and thrown around is kind of annoying.
I blame Peter McKinnon.
I mean, I think that's why like I find tones so funny, because a lot of like if you ever go on Reddit and you go on like R analog, it's like every other word is tones on there.
Right.
That's why like I'm sure if my channel grows, like there's definitely gonna be a group of Redditors that are like, man, fuck that Sweet Lou guy, he's stupid.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Or what is it? Analog circle jerk. That's another good one. I don't even.
Oh God, I love that. So they say tones all the time on that one, but like as a joke, and they like space it out. That is like one of my favorite subreddits.
You can't even join that one without a Leica, can you?
I think I'm in there illegally. I saw this picture in there that they posted the other day, and it was like an unironic just screen cap from Instagram, and this girl took like a mirror selfie with her iPhone, but put the Portra frame border from like the negatives around it.
Yes, I saw that. Oh my Lord.
Those are some nice tones.
I wanted to snap my damn phone in half.
Oh God, I love that.
Those are the kind of things that make me want to stick my head in the toilet and just flush.
See, I find a bizarre enjoyment out of those. Like, I find them so funny. I don't know. I feel like, here's the thing. Like, I feel like a couple of years ago, I probably would have been really annoyed by it. But ever since like starting this YouTube channel, I feel like I just find a lot more humor in a lot of photography things. Like, maybe it's because like I've been like telling jokes on this channel for so long that it's kind of just becoming the norm for me now.
That makes sense.
But I don't know, I find that shit like hysterical.
Yeah, there is, I guess, an interesting balance in my head of the things that kind of set me off. Like you said, cinematic. Nobody really knows what it means, like to look like cinema, I guess. But I mean, what is cinema? Like, are we talking?
And it can mean very different things to different people.
Exactly. And I had a buddy that I went to school with who, again, he learned from his teacher or his supervisor at the time, who actually, he was in the Marine. So his supervisor outright smacked him and said, no, you will not say this word anymore. What you're meaning is produced. You're talking about, you know, a nice dolly shot that was well lit, intentionally lit. The movement was intentional. Everything was intentional, and it was produced. And that's how you get that cinematic feel. They used, you know, a certain white balance, a certain lighting, a certain depth of field, certain shutter speed to get a specific look and a specific, you know, feeling into your audience. And he's like, that it comes down to intent. You're not looking for, you know, the word cinematic. What you're looking for is an intentional video. And I think that one kind of struck home with me. And I think that really applies to 95, in my opinion, % of what people are saying when they're, you know, saying cinematic. They're, you know, your focus was intentional. Your frame rate was intentional. Lighting, especially, even down to the gear you chose, the lens you chose.
Right.
It was produced
intentionally.
Cinematic
is not just 120 FPS slowed down.
Right.
Like, and I think that's a big misconception nowadays, that people think like, okay, cinematic means slow motion footage with an orange and teal grade.
Yeah.
And it's making coffee.
We are all about the Peter McKinnon jabs today, aren't we?
That's all. Well, he's not the only one, though. Yeah, I don't want to like throw shade, but there's like a ton of videos out there that are just like this irrelevant slow motion footage, and everyone's like, "Wow, that's so cinematic." It's like,
is it,
dude?
though?
Edgar Wright montages are cinematic. Like, you know, Christopher Nolan's Dunkirk is cinematic. Fucking coffee, like coffee's great. I love coffee, but
no, I don't know. 100% agree.
I don't get that trend so much, but see, that's the thing. It's just another one of those trends. Like, I feel like Instagram, you know, like if you looked at Instagram like last year and the year before, everything was that oversaturated orange and teal. And before that, it was like the really moody,
dark,
desaturated, heavy contrast. Yeah, you know, it's like, it feels like every year there's like a new flavor. And that's the one, like, if I had to talk about social media, like Instagram's probably one of my favorites, because I get a lot of inspiration from there. I like looking at my friends' work and saying like, oh shit, I gotta try that sometime, you know? But at the same time, like, I think Instagram is really bad for breeding this, like, oh, if my photos don't look like this, I'm not a good photographer. Mm-hmm. You know, like if you go through my grid, like there's no consistency whatsoever, which is probably why I haven't grown more. But it's because like I like shooting what I like shooting. Like, and it's the same thing with my YouTube channel. Like, I'm just doing what I like doing, and I'm not really going to change that for anybody. So for better or for worse, here we are.
Right.
But I think like Instagram, like people that kind of chase that ideal, like of whatever is popular in the moment. Like I think that's kind of rough for creativity, because like, yeah, you technically have a lot of skill, right? A lot of people have a lot of talent on the app. I'm not trying to belittle that, but I'd be curious what would develop if there weren't these kind of monthly, yearly trends that take over the app, like go crazy with a black and white, I don't need to see everything orange and teal.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I definitely have that kind of love-hate relationship with Instagram. I love, that everybody can post to it. And that's kind of like, that is the pro and the con of Instagram. Everyone can post to it and everyone can post to it. So, I mean, I don't think necessarily, I was actually going to make a video about this. Like, is Instagram dead? Like, can you even grow if that's your intention and you start, an Instagram account to grow and, I want to reach 100,000 followers in 2 years. Is that even possible anymore without being essentially a copy paste photographer and just, doing these overly retouched portraits of people, throwing dice or half naked, women doing whatever. Doesn't matter. They're naked.
Or like the Brandon Wolfel.
Yeah.
Like everybody's doing that now too.
Right. And it comes down to, and these people that are doing like these behind the scenes photos where it's like, this is how I made this horrible photo. It's like, that's great that you put all this effort into this weird, yo-yo photo or skipping a stone off a lake. But I mean, the photo doesn't look good, so I don't care how you made it.
Right. Yeah, it's strange because I think it leads to a bigger question, right? It is jumping onto Instagram or YouTube or any of those apps with the sole intention of growing. Like, is that a bad thing? It's an interesting question because, like, for me, like with my YouTube stuff, obviously you make videos because you want people to see them, right? Like that, you're not making them in a vacuum and you don't want no one to see them. But at the same time, like I never really started this channel with the intention of like, oh, I'm gonna have 1 million subscribers and this is gonna be my job and blah. Like I never had that thought in my head. Like the fact that I have 6,000 subscribers is kind of surprising to me. So I think it's an interesting mindset to jump into. Like, I don't necessarily think about that kind of broader long-term side of things. Like I make videos that I like, I make photos that I like, and that's it. But like you're saying, like there are people who just go onto these apps with that sole intention of, I'm going to blow up. Like TikTok even. Right.
It's one of those interesting, once again, psychological things of like, what are your intentions? And most likely if your intentions are to be in this, top 1%, you're probably going to be let down and it's not your fault. It's not, the app's fault. It's, I guess it is. Don't hate the player, hate the game kind of thing. But if we want to really throw back here, but yeah, I think it does definitely, and you can see it in a lot of artists' work if they're doing something they're passionate about, or they're copying and pasting someone else's work for the like, the share, the retweet, whatever. And I've been guilty of that obviously too. Trying out, because I think there's a difference between, trying out somebody else's style. Like I'm going to, mess around with Ansel Adams style, but I'm not Ansel Adams. I will never be Ansel Adams. But, I can take a little piece of what Ansel Adams did. Right. Maybe I enjoy, medium format black and white landscape photos and add a little bit of a twist with,
right, absolutely.
Maybe I also like Brandon Waffles or, Peter McKinnon or whoever else. And just pick apart little bits, but it does get, a little boring when you just keep scrolling that infinite scroll of Instagram and just everything looks the same. It kind of almost makes you as a content consumer, like I want to see something new.
Yeah, it's fatiguing. I think it's important to draw inspiration, You know, like I think you are the culmination of the stuff you like, right? Like if you're
Yes.
a filmmaker, you're going to be a culmination of all the directors you love, right? And I think that's a great thing because, you know, how else are you going to learn? Like when you look at like painting or drawing or whatever, like those classes that people take, usually the early assignments are like emulate the greats, like paint a painting that already existed, draw something that's already existed, right? Because you learn the technique behind what goes into those masterpieces. And
Right.
I think that's important to learn from people, you know, who know what's going on. But at the same time, if you never get past that phase, right? If you never go further than just, hey, I'm emulating Edgar Wright. Like Edgar Wright's my favorite director. I'm going to do what he does forever. You know, like the world already has Edgar Wright. They don't need another Edgar Wright. And frankly, I am not going to Edgar Wright better than Edgar Wright. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
So it's important to, you know, get inspiration. But I think, you know, ultimately you got to move on. You keep it with you forever. You know, keep Edgar Wright in your back pocket. But, you know, be Lou or whoever you are.
Right. Right. Kind of like the learn the rules so you can break the rules.
Right, absolutely.
Know why you do things, know why you don't do things, and then do whatever the hell you want. But yeah, I think I get discouraged looking at Instagram. You see, you know, two people with the exact same photo. One guy will have 100,000 likes. The other guy is going to have, 4.5 likes just because of, and then it even comes down to algorithm. Like, what did some made up robot decide to show people? If you're one of those people that comes down to, I'm just on Instagram to grow,
right,
or to be famous, or whatever your intentions are. But it's that was a very interesting Instagram tangent we just took for a little bit.
Yeah. We're just going, man.
Yeah, I enjoy it. I dig it. But there was another question I wanted to ask you. I'm kind of trying to think about it. A little bit about would you kind of consider yourself, more of a film photographer than, digital?
Ooh. Well, 2019, last year, was the first year in a long time where I shot more film than digital, which was really kind of amazing because I never had the intention. It just kind of happened that way. And I had a lot of YouTube stuff come up. Last year I connected with Lomography, so I started every time they would have a new film, I would talk to them and get film from them. And I started hanging out with Jacob more, and we shot film together. And before you knew it, like I was, spending all my money developing film. So it's weird because, if I'm shooting a wedding, if I'm shooting a client's headshots, whatever I'm doing, I don't think I would trust myself enough to do film. I think I'm going to use my reliable workhorse, 5D Mark III, whatever camera I'm using.
Right.
Because if I'm going out there to shoot a wedding, my biggest fear is screwing up the kiss, screwing up those important moments. And
right.
Dude, I have had a lot of mixed luck with film photography. I've taken tons of pictures that I am so fucking proud of. And at the same time, I've taken photos that make me want to crawl under a rock. And I've had cameras that have just died for no reason. Right. So I need something that I know is going to be 100%. So I've never shot a wedding on film. I've taken photos for fun on film, and a lot of times I'll bring the Polaroid and I'll give the bride and the groom Polaroids, and they love it, and it's sentimental and it's immediate, and that's really cool. But I talked to Noptop about this on one of my podcast episodes that I haven't edited yet, and I was kind of explaining that the way I look at it is that digital is my workhorse, it's my rational, it's my get the job done, and film is my more romantic, artsy, irrational, I'm just creating, and this is really for me.
Right.
So I'm kind of in the middle. I wouldn't say I'm one or the other, I'm both.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely an interesting thing you kind of brought up, kind of a 2019 being a big film year for you. I guess it depends. I mean, my perspective is, finding you, I think in, late 2018, early 2019, viewing you as a 90% of what you shoot, or my perspective of 90% of what you shoot, is film. And if I would have, caught you at an earlier date or a later date in time, what would have been on your Instagram timeline, basically. So just kind of interesting to think about, like, what point, because like even now, 2019, I told myself I'm going to really, get into shooting film. I've shot, before this year, 2020, I've shot maybe 1 or 2 rolls of film a year for like the past 2 or 3 years, just out of like, hey, I found this thing in my closet. Let's, dick around with it for a little bit and then throw it back in the shoebox for 8-9 months until I find it again when I'm cleaning my room or moving or something like that. But I told myself, I'm not a huge fan of resolutions or anything like that, but in probably November, December, I'd realized that my Canon AE1 that I picked up in, summer of 2018 had been sitting in my closet for 2 years. And that just made me sick.
Yeah.
Like I'd almost rather have that camera in, an early 80s camera in pristine condition that has been, that, maybe 1 roll of film had gone through the thing. Like this dude just, not intentionally, but he took care of it. So it's like this amazing camera is just chilling in, a locked up Pelican case for 2 years. That's bullshit. And that's, I am doing a disservice to that camera. And some other photographer could be out there using it. And that kind of, woke me up a little bit, kicked my ass. And I said, all right, this is it. 2020 is going to be, my year of film. And I've shot, like I said, I did probably 1, maybe 2 rolls of film the last 3 or 4 years per year. And we're in, what is it, April now, end of April. And I'm close to 20 rolls of film. I've only developed like 4 or 5, or had them developed for me. But, I got another 16 rolls sitting in my fridge right now.
That's sick, dude.
And I'm just right the second, I think B&H, I just got an email today that B&H shipped my Patterson tank. So super pumped. I got my glass jugs. Everything's in one of my cabinets in the bathroom now, kind of ready to go. Like I have my C41 kit from Cinestill, got my jugs, got my thermometer, got my tubs, everything ready to go. Film's, chilling in the fridge, pun intended. And I'm ready to rock and roll. I just need B&H to get my Patterson tank to me next week, which I think it comes next week. But yeah, it's just, getting back to that nostalgia of, digital and now mirrorless. Like the sound of the shutter isn't even there anymore. And it's like, that's one of the, it sounds so cliche, but that's one of the reasons, I fell in love with photography in the first place. That sound of a click, it is a audible, tactile, and you feel it too. And it's something you lose with mirrorless or shooting on a phone. I've never ever enjoyed shooting on a phone. I absolutely hate it. But I mean, not to discourage any, iPhone photographers. If you're shooting on a phone, if you're taking pictures, you are a photographer.
Yeah, do your thing. Absolutely.
Exactly. But it's not the medium for me. I think everybody has a preferred medium, and I wouldn't necessarily say film is my preferred medium. Film is my safe space. It's where I kind of go, like you were saying, an artistic, I'm not going to shoot a wedding with film. No way, no how, no way in hell, ever. But I am, I'll go on a hike and leave my, Z6 or my GH5, sitting at home. Well, I'll just take my L35 or my Polaroid or whatever. And it's an entirely different experience. And just like if there's somebody out there that hasn't shot film before, even if you pick up a disposable, it's the experience, it's the journey. It's not necessarily the destination of, a crisp perfectly in focus, perfectly exposed 24 megapixel image. It's that journey of hoping you get your exposure right. Hopefully your shutter speed was right and your photo's not blurry. Hopefully, you didn't, screw up the film at some point. You didn't drop your camera in a lake or, overexpose it, underexpose it, screw up the developing. It's this whole journey that makes, this intrinsic sentimental value, in your individual frame that it's lost in digital. And I don't want to be those, one of those cliche film guys either, because that's definitely not me. My digitals are definitely my workhorses as well. But
Yeah.
oh man, just the tactile, like I said, the audible shutter, the clicking of like the aperture. I miss that.
Absolutely. I mean, even like I recently got a Mamiya 645, and like when you fire that shutter, man, it's like it feels like shooting a bazooka. Like the whole you feel the whole camera. It's like I don't know. If there's film in mine right now, I would fire it off right now, but I don't want to waste a shot. But yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, but oh man, that's I just sit there and I kind of use I know I shouldn't do this. Mechanically wearing my gear, but I like sitting there sometimes with an old, 50 mil and using it as essentially like a fidget spinner, just kind of, playing with the aperture, right. Stopping it down and clicking it back open again. It's just, it's fun. Oh man, those are, and even, when I first got started with photography, when I was, 5, 6, didn't know anything about exposure, didn't know anything about aperture, but it was that, cliche capturing that moment in time kind of thing that makes you fall in love with it. Even if you,
right.
Like I said, even an iPhone photographer is a photographer, whether they know, shutter speed, aperture, all that stuff or not. Because it really comes down to that, I guess, enjoyment that you're getting out of it. Like, do you enjoy what you do? Are you, somewhat proficient at getting the job done?
Right.
Yeah, I lost my train of thought, but just kind of, zoning back to, again, early 90s, especially, the Polaroids having that, not only that tactile giant ass shutter button, but then that buzz of, your photos zipping out and then waiting in anticipation was almost more ridiculous than waiting for those little 5x7s from Walgreens or CVS that took, a week to develop if you didn't pay double for the 1 hour fast develop. But oh man, whew. Yeah, just bringing back the memories right now. I'm kind of getting lost in my own head. Yeah, man, growing up on Polaroids, I don't think I ever, I might have shared this on my YouTube channel. I picked up a Polaroid camera not too long ago. I sent a picture of it to my mom as soon as I picked it up. And she's like, I still have your old Polaroid from 1993 when I was 3 years old, one of the first cameras I ever shot on. She's like, I still have that in a box somewhere. And a couple of minutes later, she sent me a photo of the box with my old, I actually have one here. It's not the exact one, but my parents are still holding on to it. It's one of the Polaroid Sun 600s.
Oh, hell yeah.
It's black, has the flip up, everything like that, little gray strip on the top. Cool. And she had the original receipt from 1993. I wish I have a photo of it somewhere on my phone, I believe. But she's like, "Oh yeah, I'll send it to you. I can't wait to shoot." It's kind of like bringing my life full circle. I never expected, ever to have like a paying income being a photographer. It still blows my mind. Somebody pays me to do what I want to do, to have fun. I mean, it's not always what I want to do, but you know what I'm saying. But
yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, it blew my mind because up until that moment, I knew I shot on disposables. I remember having Polaroids as a kid, and I still had, drawers. Growing up, I had, my sock drawer was stuffed with random Polaroids I'd taken when I was a kid. And, I find them when I go back to my parents' house and visit and stuff like that. Your parents will pull them out and be like, hey, remember when, you did this and we snapped a photo, or here was your first photo, something like that. I'd love to find that. But, having her pull out that receipt and being like, yeah, we bought this camera for, $12.99 in 1993. And the old faded blue and white receipt from, I think it was another, drugstore like Walgreens, CVS, some Rite Aid, something like that. And then, a pack of film was, the same cost as the camera. I think it was like $13.99 or something like that. Still ridiculous. Yes, Polaroid, your film is ridiculous. Polaroid Originals, whatever you want to call yourselves.
Well, they rebranded again. I think they're just Polaroid now.
Correct, because I think the film was bought by Impossible and then called Polaroid Originals, and now they're just Polaroid.
Right.
Which...
Yeah, it's weird. They've rebranded like 3 times in the last couple of years, and that's a whole other story. I have such a love-hate relationship with them. I love their cameras, agree. But their film nowadays is so unreliable.
Yes,
and for like $20 a pack for 8 exposures,
you're not even getting the full 10. Yeah,
it's wild. Well, the issue, this is what they claim anyway. I don't know how true it is, but they claim that the reason, this is specifically for the Spectra, actually. I don't know if it's true of the 600 as well, but for the Spectras, when they were manufacturing Polaroid Originals with 10 shots, the packs were too thick to fit into the Spectra, and it was causing it to jam up. So that's why they went down to 8. I don't know if that's true of the 600 as well. But regardless, like $20, even if it was for 10 exposures, like, so $2 a frame basically, and then half the time they don't even come out right, half the time they don't develop properly. So they need to figure it out, because like people are thrilled that they're back. I'm thrilled that they're doing things.
Right.
But however, we need to also hold them to a standard, you know what I mean? Like the channel Analog Resurgence, which is headed by this awesome dude named Noah. He's really into Super 8 and Polaroid. Yep. And he recently put out a video like kind of along the same lines of saying like it's great that Polaroid is back, but we still need to be critical of how much they're charging and how reliable the film is. Like up until recently, in the next like 2 weeks, I'm putting out a video about the One Step Plus, which I should have uploaded last year, but that's a whole other conversation. And that video took me so long because of how unreliable the film was. I was using the Polaroid Originals, and half the time the packs weren't developing. Like they would either underexpose, they would not develop fully, there would be streaks, there'd be scratches, all kinds of shit. And I just ordered 3 packs straight from Polaroid last week for a test. Okay. And of course they'll make me eat my words, because all 3 of those packs were perfect.
Wow.
So I don't know if that implies that the newest Polaroid, because like now that they're no longer Polaroid Originals, they're just Polaroids, I don't know if they've changed the formula or what, or if they're going to be more reliable, but it's a very difficult medium, like especially for, I feel like they're geared towards younger people. Like I feel like that's who they're marketed towards. But like someone in high school or college is not going to be shelling out $20 for 8 photos, you know what I mean? Especially if they're not all going to work.
Exactly. So, that's a night worth of work delivering pizzas or whatever you can do as a high schooler. That's
right, exactly. That's and if you have an iPhone or whatever phone you have, like you can still take those pictures, and then you have apps that'll make them look like whatever film you want. So I just can't see how that's going to be sustainable. Like the cameras are beautiful. I love their cameras. But if they don't figure out the chemistry and find a way to make it reliable and cheaper, like I don't know how long they can sustain going the way they're going. Right.
They've had 20, 30 years, almost 40 if you talk about like the early 80s instant cameras. Just smacked my mic. That's how mad I was.
Yeah.
I'm in a rage here. I'm
and granted,
literally screaming.
Originals, that definitely isn't nearly as old, because they did have to like recover stuff and figure out how things used to be manufactured and all that. Because like the packs are different now, right? Like back in the day, the older packs of film had the battery, which would power the camera as well. The newer, Polaroid originals don't. Or like there's the difference. There's the 600 and the I-type, and I think if I'm remembering correctly, I think the I-type is the one that doesn't have the battery and the 600 does.
Yeah, it's a built-in into the camera battery. That's why you pick up a 30-year-old, Polaroid and it still works because there was no internal battery to replace or degrade.
And the other thing too, like I know we're going down like a Polaroid rabbit hole here, but they've also made some really weird decisions, like with the Polaroid Snap Touch, which if you watch my channel, I've been shitting on that camera for like 2 years.
Yes,
like that camera sucks. Like
yes,
and that was one of my first reviews, and I didn't know what I was doing. So yeah, I'm not super proud of that review, but I stand by the message that I said that it fails at being retro and modern. Like
they fails at being a Polaroid.
They tried to do both, and I feel like they didn't do either.
Yes.
So like they kind of have returned to form with the one steps, like going back to the old model, the rainbow, all that fun stuff. But they still, like, when I remember in the 90s, like those Polaroids, it didn't matter. Like you could be in the cold, you could be in the hot sun. You didn't have to, like, it didn't matter how you stored them. Like the film just worked. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and now it's like, store it in the fridge, let it come to room temperature, put it in your pocket. Don't let it be too cold. If it's too cold, it won't develop. If it's too hot, it won't develop. Like in the 90s, it didn't matter. Like they just worked, like I remember you would shake them and throw them on the table and who cares, right? And which you're not even supposed to shake them, right? But, or at least nowadays you're not. I don't know if that was true then, but they need to figure that shit out.
I 110% agree. Like I don't remember being, and maybe this is like my warped memory or skewed perspective of when I was 10 years old shooting on a Polaroid camera. I don't remember ever taking a photo and being upset that, it had these giant blue streaks on it that just, it wasn't, a thing. They all turned out, pretty much all turned out sharp. And if they didn't, you retake the damn photo. But they all developed. I distinctly remember shaking them. I never put them in my pocket or my, overalls or whatever I was wearing at 8 years old.
Your Janko jeans.
Exactly. My pipes. I took the photo and then it worked. Yeah, it was summer. We weren't in school, so I would chuck it out somewhere, leave it out in the sun, and come back in a couple minutes. Shake the hell out of it, and it would be developed. And I still have that photo. 10, 20 years later. Now I look at these things. I'll open up I actually got a drawer here with a stack of about 60 Polaroids. I just kind of keep. And you know what? I actually have Game Boy Pocket camera slides right here.
Yeah.
1998 Nintendo. I keep those right in my Polaroid stack so they don't get warped or anything like that. Kind of like when you used to throw like leaves and books and stuff and it would press them. But yeah, I'm looking through half of these and, out of the 60 I have, 20 just barely developed. A couple of them in the newer cameras, the shutter just, got stuck and I ended up with a 3-second exposure or something jammed up and I had to, take the film cartridge out. So I ruined the top layer of film.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, they're talking about, 10 shots jammed. I never had that problem, but I somehow do now with 8.
Right. And they also fade. Like if you leave them out, the Polaroid originals, you give them like a year and they really lose their color. It's like, so you can't even display them. You got to keep them in a binder.
That's why I keep them. I just close my desk drawer. I keep mine locked up in a desk so they don't, I don't lose those moments. And it's asinine, I think. And like you said, I think somebody, even if it's, small YouTubers, small creators, whoever, have to keep them accountable. And like you said earlier, the prices are ridiculous. You bought 3 packs for close to $60, I'm guessing.
It's nuts, dude. Ugh. Like when I was looking at the Polaroid One Step Plus review and I was looking at how many packs I shot for that review to be thorough, And it's like, bro, I am never recovering this in AdSense. Like that's
I will
money that's
never
not coming back.
financially recover, says Joe
never.
Exotic.
Yeah, man.
You know what? We had to get at least one Tiger King reference in there. I feel satisfied.
I haven't watched it, but my girlfriend watched it, and I feel like I did because of her. Like she like gave me the play-by-play. But I do know that meme.
Okay, good. That's all that matters. But
Yeah.
Getting back to that is, I'm staring at a stack of 10 cameras right now. And this isn't even my whole collection. I'm just staring kind of at the shelf I have sitting next to my desk.
Right.
And I had the intention of doing, a review on every single Polaroid camera I own, and just kind of, collecting all 150 Polaroids, and being, the Polaroid master, because I got to catch them all.
I love that.
But okay, somebody got the reference.
Dude, come on.
But yeah, I knew you would. My 18 to 24 audience isn't going to appreciate that as much, but at least somebody will. My 24 to 36 will. Just it scares me. That's an investment that I will not financially recover from buying, at least.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like I've reviewed a camera if, it's like shooting. I fill up an SD card on a camera. I didn't put that camera to its max with one. Doesn't matter how, damn big the SD card is. If I didn't use that camera multiple times on multiple days, in multiple weather conditions, whatever, in multiple scenarios, I didn't do my due diligence of, providing an accurate, adequate, proper review that I want to, stamp my name on or stamp my logo on at the end of the day. I don't want to do that with one pack of Polaroid. I don't even feel like I got my money's worth out of the $20 I spent with one pack. Why would I, give the thumbs up or thumbs down or whatever to this camera after one pack of film that may or may not even have developed?
Right. Some people might be cool with that, but yeah, it's nowhere near thorough enough. Like, that's why, it's a meme on my channel. Like, I always joke about how my videos are always late and I'm always behind, but, you really can't, like, with a Polaroid, with something like that, like, I can't just do 3 rolls and say, oh, yeah, that's 3 packs, whatever. Yeah, that's it. It's good. Most, like, I have a huge amount of shots that did not come out properly, which really bums me out. And I have a stack on my desk right now that I have to scan, but these were like the control ones I was doing for the review. But either way, it's like the cameras are dope, but the film just needs so much attention, and it bums me out. But they'll get there, It's just a matter of, kind of refining. There, like I said before about like the Dobrik's disposable, like there is certainly an audience of people who care about this stuff. So I imagine eventually, if someone gets burned enough, they're gonna let it be known, and like in my Polaroid reviews that are on the channel now, I've already said that idea of like, these cameras are dope, but the film needs work. So I'm sure they get it. You know what I mean? Yeah,
somebody does who knows, how out of their hands it is, or if they're just riding, their newly found success wave right now. And, it might take, I guess it might be supply and demand, where there's no demand for them to fix, it's an issue for you and me, but it's not an issue for that 16 to 20 audience that's just out there having fun and couldn't care less, how their photo develops, or, they're not writing a damn letter to their congressman every time they're Polaroid, like I would do. May have done that.
Yeah, I need to contact my local government. Sir, my Polaroid is not developing, and I'm not okay.
Get Mayor Cuomo on that right away.
Yeah. Cuomo, listen, I know we're focused on quarantine right now, but
priorities, motherfucker.
More important.
Get your shit together. You got some downtime. Yeah, let's fix this together.
For real. So when Polaroid inevitably listens to this podcast, they have their action items right now. They get a task force on this. And
I'm gonna tag the hell out of Polaroid. They're not gonna watch it because it's obviously spam, but I will tag them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's.
I met some of them in the city. They had like this whatever, no names. But they were like demoing the you saw like the lab, the thing they have where you put the phone on top and they scan the photo and it prints a Polaroid off your phone. Did you see that thing?
Yeah, that freaks me out a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. And I told them who I was and I had this small channel and I was like, hey, listen, I'm not like asking for a freebie. I'm just wondering, like, could I have a loaner or could I come in here one day and film a video? Because, like, my subscribers have asked me to talk about it and I am not trying to spend $120 on this thing.
Yeah. Yet.
And I think they looked at my channel and they just deaded me. They were like, no, not this guy. This guy's fucking weird.
He's going to shit straight on our camera. It's going to get in the lens. It's going to get in the film compartment. It's going to be gross.
But that's the thing. Like, I really value, like, anytime I've worked, like, I work every now and then with Fuji.
Okay.
And, or lomography, and I make it really clear, like, I am going to say what I'm going to say. Like, and if that's not cool with you, then we're not doing this.
Right.
Like, what's the point of reviewing shit on YouTube if you're not going to be honest? Like, it's not a review, it's a commercial, So that's really important to me, is like that transparency. Unfortunately, like with Fuji and with lomography, they let me do whatever I want, And the only thing that Fuji asked was like, if you have a question about the camera, ask me, which I think is totally fair. Like if I'm not understanding something, I shouldn't just be like, this shit's stupid and broken, like I should do my due diligence, which I wouldn't, just come out and say a camera's garbage if I didn't know how to use it. Right. But, I'm not so sure, like, if Canon were to approach me, I'm not so sure that they would be as understanding and open as, say, lomography,
Right, absolutely. And that's, I think you brought up a good point, kind of circling back to these, like, YouTube photographers that make these, at least where my brain kind of first go to, they make these videos where it's like, did I just watch, a Squarespace commercial or a Wix commercial, or did I just watch a review of this Canon? Because there was absolutely, no negatives to this thing other than, it doesn't flush the toilet for you.
Right.
So just interesting little YouTube rants that I like to sprinkle in like some little sprinkles and some icing if we had some theoretical alliteration cupcakes going on here.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, I think I just reached the bottom of my beer. I don't know about you.
Yeah. Could use another.
I really did about 20 minutes ago, but I think we were having a good conversation, so I didn't want to stop it. But I think that might be a pretty good wrap-up point for this first episode.
Dude, hell yeah.
Hit a lot of awesome topics. I'm super happy with that. That was a lot of fun. We'll definitely have to do a part 2 to this and come back after a couple other episodes and see how our saltiness has either grown or decreased with Polaroid. If Polaroid gets their shit together or not, we'll see. But yeah, I think that was a pretty good chat. I enjoyed my beer. I enjoyed my conversation. This was kind of like a little quarantine pub crawl that we did.
I love it. That's beautiful.
Where we made it through one beer. Great analogy. Thank you, self. But Lou, really appreciate you coming on the new RunNGun podcast and being the first guest on here. That was awesome. If you want to just plug your channel real quick and plug your socials before we dip out, I'll give you a shot to do that real quick.
Cool. Well, first off, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be the first guest. That's pretty awesome. You can find me under the name Sweet Lou Photography everywhere, except Facebook. I don't do Facebook. There you go.
Perfect. All right, so thank you to everybody for listening to the first RunNGun podcast. Hopefully we were able to keep your attention this far through our rants and raves and all of that good stuff. So hope you guys enjoyed that. If you did, hit that subscribe button so you can get more of our interesting RunNGun podcast chats. And hit that like button. I don't know if SoundCloud has a like button. I don't even know if this will be on.
They have a heart
button. Okay, give me a heart. It's not creepy, I promise. It is a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the end of the episode. And until next time, get out and go shoot.
Ooh, I like that.
Sweet. That's my little my little tag phrase that I throw in all my videos. It's a little bit cheesy, but it kind of went with that whole that, you know, how I was kind of raging about those, you know, 20, 30 minute long videos that have about 10 seconds worth of, you know, tutorial value in them. And you're like, I just teach me the damn thing so I can go out and I can go shoot. And it's like, all right, here's your 2-minute video, get out and go shoot, you know, do it.
I love that.
So that's my little catchphrase. Yep, I am cutting right now.